pontoon floating dry dock, assembled in the field from standard parts, provides essential repair facilities at advanced bases for PT boats and other small craft. Its adjustable boat cradle accommodates various shapes and sizes of boat hulls. The dock submerges to any desired depth within the height of its towers by admitting a controlled volume of water to the deck pontoons. As the dry dock submerges, pontoon towers outboard of the deck act as stabilizers and keep it on an even keel. Forcing the water out of the pontoons raises the dock. Compressors mounted on a tender barge feed compressed air to each deck pontoon to expel the water and restore the dry dock's buoyancy. The pontoon floating dry dock can be assembled in several different sizes. This 4 by 15 dock has a deck area of about 30 by 87 feet. Its capacity is 100 long tons. By studying its construction, we can learn the proper assembly of the various parts of any pontoon dry dock. There are 4 steps in its assembly. First is the string and deck, which is almost identical in construction to the pontoon barge. Second, the stabilizer towers, catwalks, and lifelines. Third, the ramp and air feed system. And fourth, the adjustable boat cradle. The angles for the 15 pontoon string come in 3 sections, which you join with breech plug splices. Lock the splices by inserting and tightening a locking pin. As the string is assembled, remove the plug nearest the bilge of each deck pontoon to permit the insertion of a water inlet pipe or swing pipe. In place of the extracted plug, insert a 2-inch street L. Then screw into the street L a 2-inch pipe 4 feet 7 inches long. The crane hoists the 3 pieces of the upper angles separately, and you splice them on top of the string. After launching, join the 4 strings at deck level with links and pins, just as in barge construction. 14 tie rod units join the strings underwater. And you have completed the deck assembly. We assemble the dock's 10 stabilizer towers on deck. 2 T6 pontoons make a tower. Bolt 4 connection clip angles to the upper corner straps of 1 pontoon. The crane lowers a 2nd pontoon over it, and you bolt the 2 together to form the tower. Attach each of the assembled towers by a pair of bracket angles secured by links and pins to the outer angles of the dry dock. Fasten the corner straps of the tower to the brackets with bolts. Paired knee braces or strut arms support the outboard end of the tower. Secure the foot of the brace to the bilge angle, which is underwater, by means of link and pin. You can avoid this underwater work by attaching the foot of the knee brace while the string is still on the ways. Bolt the tops of the knee braces to the pontoon corner straps. When all 10 towers are placed, we put catwalks between the towers. Two main spans and 2 end spans make up each catwalk. There are 2 steel trusses in the main span. Bolt 3 X-braces between the trusses to form a rigid unit. Bolt seating angles to the tops of the towers to receive the spans. Then attach stanchions for the lifelines. Eight angles and stanchions go into one catwalk assembly. When the main span is lowered into place, anchor it to the angles with assembly bolts. To complete the main span, bridge the trusses with wood deck panels. The 2 smaller end spans are also wood panels. String 2 wire ropes along each catwalk to serve as lifelines. These provide security for men working on top of the towers. Paint depth marks on the 4 stabilizer towers. These should be at 6-inch intervals. They will indicate the depth of submergence when the dock is in use. The tender for the pontoon floating dry dock is commonly the standard 3x7 pontoon barge. Air compressors are mounted on the tender, and an air manifold with valves controls the dock's air feed system. A connecting ramp hinges the barge to the dry dock. 2 20-foot steel beams are the basic structural parts of the ramp. To provide lateral stiffening for the ramp connection, run diagonal cable ties under the beams from barge to dry dock. A turnbuckle in each cable takes up the slack. Sectional wood panels bolted to the beams form the deck of the ramp. The pontoon dry dock submerges when water floods the deck pontoons. It raises when compressed air forces the water out of the pontoons. An air feed system, which is connected to each individual deck pontoon, controls this submerging and rising. Each pontoon has a fitting for attaching a 1-inch hose called a header. The adjustable swing pipe was attached to each pontoon during the assembly of the strings. Valves in another part of the air feed system control the flow of air through the pontoon hose. With the valves closed, we place the open end of the swing pipe underwater. Air trapped in the pontoon prevents water from flowing in until we open the valves. The pressure of water entering through the swing pipe now forces the air out and gradually floods the pontoon. We stop the sinking at any depth by closing the air valves. To raise the pontoon, we admit compressed air from the air feed system. This forces the water out and restores buoyancy. As the air forces the water out of each individual deck pontoon, the entire dry dock rises. This piping plan calls for 4 groups of 14 pontoons. A separate main air feed pipe supplies each group. Flexible hoses connect the end of each main to a manifold aboard the tender barge. Hoses also connect the manifold to gasoline-powered air compressors mounted on the barge. Valves on the manifold provide separate control of the airflow for each of the 4 groups of pontoons, so the dry dock can be operated on an even keel or inclined as necessary. Each of the air compressors on the barge has a pop-off safety valve and a check valve. The manifold is a hollow cylinder equipped with an air pressure gauge and 12 2-inch valves with hose coupling. Hose mains running from the barge to the dry dock complete the air feed system. The adjustable boat cradle on the deck of the pontoon floating dry dock receives the hull of the vessel to be docked and holds it securely in position. The foundation structure of the boat cradle consists of blocking frame units secured to the deck of the dry dock. On this dock, there are 10 center blocking frames and 2 rows of 11 outer blocking frames each. We place 6 movable cradle supports athwartships and secure them to the blocking frames with fittings which permit the cradle supports to be shifted fore and aft. Two adjustable cradle arms and 2 cradle arm braces go on each cradle support. We adjust the boat cradle fore and aft to conform to the size of each vessel to be docked and open or close the V formed by each pair of cradle arms to match the shape of the hull. Blocking shaped to conform to the hull contours is usually supplied by the vessel to be docked. A docking plan supplied for each individual vessel determines the adjustment of the boat cradle. Before undertaking actual docking operations, we test the completed dry dock. The minimum crew for test operation consists of 4 men. The officer or man in charge of the test operates the manifold. 1 man handles the air compressors and the others operate the swing pipes on the dry dock. With the compressor running, check all valves. When the pressure test has been completed, open all 4 blow valves and push the swing pipes below water level. Close the manifold compressor valves and open all blow valves and open vent valves. Pressure from the water entering the deck pontoons will now begin to expel the air through the open vent valves. It takes about 25 minutes to submerge the unloaded dry dock to deck level. When properly controlled, all 4 corners of the dry dock deck will go awash at the same time. This is important because the rate of sinking will increase sharply after the deck goes under. The depth marks on the 4 corner towers are the guides in adjusting the blow valves to correct list. To raise the dock, open compressor valves and blow valves, forcing the water out of the deck pontoons. Raising the dock takes much less time than submerging. When docking a vessel, a docking officer will provide the dry dock crew with a specific plan for the craft to be docked. Put the cradle members in position and place chocks to support the hull. The operating crew for warping the craft into position may be a chief petty officer and 5 men. The chief either rides the boat in or stands on the windward catwalk. 4 men on the catwalks handle bow and stern lines, while the 5th operates the compressor. The docking officer usually operates the manifold. The docking plan for this craft, an 80-foot Elco PT boat, calls for the dry dock to be sunk to a depth of 7.5 feet at the bow and 9 feet at the stern. These depths might be increased if the boat were docked in a badly damaged condition. When the dry dock is submerged, warp the craft in slowly, bow first, and shift it until the docking officer is satisfied that she is in the proper position above the boat cradle. Then bring the dock to an even keel and raise it to the level required for the repair operation. As soon as the dry dock has the required freeboard, raise the swing pipes above water level and shut down the compressors until repairs are completed. The pontoon floating dry dock, handled by a competent crew, provides advanced base repair facilities that keep the Navy's smaller fighting craft in fit condition to meet any emergency.